If you work for DoorDash or UberEats long enough, you eventually stop looking at the addresses. You just look at the mileage and the payout. That was my first mistake. It was a Friday night, just past 11:30 p.m. I had been driving for 6 hours straight, and the smell of stale fast food in my Toyota Corolla was starting to make me nauseous. I told myself I was done. I was literally hovering my finger over the Go Offline button when a new order pinged. The payout was absurdly high, $35 for a single large pepperoni pizza. The distance was about 12 miles, mostly highway, but the destination pin was deep in the boonies, way past the suburban sprawl where the streetlights end and the dense tree line begins. My brain said go home, but my bank account said take the money. I tapped accept. The pickup at the pizza place was standard. The teenage kid behind the counter looked bored, sliding the box across the metal counter without a word. I tossed it in the thermal bag in my passenger seat and headed out. The drive started normally enough. I blasted a podcast to keep myself awake as I cruised down the interstate. But as I took the exit toward the delivery location, the atmosphere shifted. The paved roads turned to cracked asphalt, and eventually the asphalt gave way to a single-lane gravel track. My GPS announced, continue for 3 miles. I was surrounded by forest. These weren't the nice, manicured trees of a park. This was old-growth timber, thick and suffocating. The branches formed a canopy over the road that blocked out the moon, leaving me in a tunnel of total darkness, cut only by my high beams. About a mile in, I checked my rearview mirror. My heart did a little stutter step. There were 2 faint reflections behind me. At first, I thought they were animal eyes, but they were too symmetrical. It was a car. It was following about 50 yards back, rolling slowly over the gravel. But here's the thing, it had no headlights on. I slowed down, thinking maybe they forgot to turn them on. The car slowed down too, maintaining the exact same distance. Okay, creepy, I muttered to myself. I sped up a little, the gravel crunching loudly under my tires. The shadow behind me sped up too. I started to sweat. In the middle of nowhere, a car driving blacked out is never a good sign. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. I kept glancing at the mirror, waiting for them to make a move, to flash their lights, to do something. Then, just as the road curved sharply to the left, I looked back, and the car was gone. Just empty darkness. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Maybe they turned off under a hidden driveway? Maybe my tired eyes were playing tricks on me. I drove for another 5 minutes until the GPS announced, "You have arrived." The destination was an imposing, dilapidated 2-story house that looked like it hadn't seen a coat of paint since the Reagan administration. The porch sagged and the windows were dark, reflecting my headlights like dead eyes. There was no other car in the driveway. I grabbed the pizza, my footsteps crunching loudly on the dry leaves littering the walk. I felt exposed. Vulnerable. I rang the doorbell, listening to the chime echo deep inside the house. After a long minute, the door creaked open. It wasn't a hungry college kid or a party group. It was an elderly woman, probably in her late 70s, wearing a floral nightgown and looking terrified. She cracked the door only an inch, the chain lock still engaged. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Delivery, ma'am. I have the pizza you ordered." I held up the bag, trying to look as non-threatening as possible. She squinted at me, confusion washing over her face. "Pizza? I didn't order any pizza. I don't even have a cell phone, young man. It's midnight. Go away." She slammed the door shut. I heard the deadbolt slide home. I stood there on the rotting porch, the cold night air biting at my neck. I looked at my phone. The app clearly said this was the right address. I tried to call the customer through the app. Ring, ring. The number you have dialed is not in service. A cold pit formed in my stomach. It wasn't just a wrong address. Someone manually dropped a pin here. Someone who knew this house was isolated. Someone who knew the only way in was that narrow gravel track. And then I remembered the car with no lights. The realization hit me like a physical punch. I wasn't just at the wrong house, I was in a trap. I didn't bother chatting with support to cancel the order. I threw the pizza bag into the passenger seat and jumped into the driver's side. I locked the doors instantly. My hands were shaking so bad I fumbled with the ignition key twice before the engine roared to life. I threw the car into reverse, spinning the tires on the loose gravel, and swung the nose around to face the way I came. "Just drive," I whispered. "Just get back to the pavement." I drove faster than was safe for that road. The trees blurred past me in a gray-green smear. My eyes were darting between the winding road ahead and the rearview mirror, terrified that the phantom car would reappear behind me. I made it about a mile back down the road, roughly the spot where the dark car had vanished earlier. I slammed on the brakes. The ABS pulsed against my foot as my Corolla skidded to a halt, dust billowing up around the car. There it was. It was an old, beat-up sedan, maybe a Buick or an Oldsmobile. It was parked perpendicular across the narrow road, completely blocking the path. Its lights were still off. It looked like a dead metal carcass rotting in the woods. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Think. I shifted into reverse, ready to back up all the way to the old lady's house if I had to. But as I looked in the rearview mirror, my blood turned to ice. Figures were stepping out of the tree line behind me. 3 of them. They were dressed in dark clothes, hoods pulled up. I couldn't see faces, just silhouettes against the faint ambient light of the night. They weren't running. They were walking, calmly, like they had all the time in the world. I looked forward again. 2 more figures stepped out from behind the blocking car. One of them was holding something long and metallic, a tire iron or a baseball bat. He tapped it against his palm, a slow, rhythmic motion. They were closing in from both sides. This wasn't a robbery. This was a hunting party. I looked at the road. The car blocked the gravel, but on the right side there was a shallow ditch and a gap between the bumper of the sedan and a thick oak tree. It was a tiny gap, maybe 5 feet. Not enough for a car, but I didn't have a choice. "Not tonight," I screamed, more to psych myself up than anything else. I didn't reverse. I floored it. The tires screamed, kicking up stones. The figures in front of me froze for a split second. They probably expected me to stop or back up. They didn't expect me to turn my Toyota into a battering ram. I swerved hard to the right, aiming for the ditch. The guy with the tire iron lunged at my car, swinging the weapon. Whack! The metal shattered my driver's side window, spraying safety glass all over my lap. I felt a sharp sting on my cheek, but I didn't let up on the gas. My front right tire dropped into the ditch. The undercarriage screamed as it scraped against rocks and roots. The car tilted dangerously, almost tipping over. I fought the steering wheel, wrestling the car forward. The rear of my car clipped the trunk of their sedan with a sickening crunch of metal on metal, tearing my bumper loose. For a second, I was stuck. The wheels spun in the mud. I saw a hand reach through my broken window, grabbing at my shoulder. A gloved hand. I screamed and jerked the wheel left, stomping the gas pedal to the floor. The tires found traction on a tree root. The car lurched forward, shooting out of the ditch and back onto the gravel road. I didn't look back. I drove like a maniac, ignoring the suspension rattling and the wind howling through the broken window. I didn't stop until I hit the main highway 5 miles away. I pulled into a brightly lit 24-hour gas station, shaking so hard I couldn't even unbuckle my seatbelt. The police arrived about 20 minutes later. I told them everything. They set a patrol car out to the location, but by the time they got there, the sedan was gone. However, they found plenty of evidence. There were tire tracks in the mud, shattered glass from my window, and my torn-off rear bumper. The officer told me later that I wasn't the first. A gang had been operating in the Tri-County area, using ghost orders on delivery apps to lure drivers into dead zones. They would ambush them, steal the cars, empty their accounts, and leave the drivers beaten, or worse, in the woods. I quit driving for delivery apps that night. I still have a scar on my cheek from the glass, but every time I look at it, I just feel grateful. If I had hesitated 1 second longer, if I hadn't taken that ditch, I don't think I would have ever left those woods.
When you're a broke college sophomore living off instant ramen and hope, your sense of danger tends to get dull. You stop asking, "Is this safe?" and start asking, "Does this pay?" That was the mindset I was in when I accepted the order that almost ended my life. It was a Tuesday, around 1 a.m. I was parked in a 7-Eleven lot, scrolling through TikTok and waiting for the delivery app to ping. It was a slow night. Most decent people were asleep, and the only orders popping up were $3 fast food runs that would take 30 minutes to complete. Not worth the gas. Then my screen lit up. New order, 1 item. Item, smart water, 1 liter. Distance, 4.2 miles. Guaranteed pay, $55. I stared at the screen for a solid 5 seconds. A $55 payout for a single bottle of water? I assumed it was a glitch, or maybe a drunk rich guy who accidentally added a 0 to the tip. I didn't care. I tapped accept so fast I almost cracked my screen. I wasn't going to let someone else snag a unicorn order like that. I bought the water myself at the 7-Eleven, since the pickup location was listed as driver purchase. It cost me $2. I was already up $53 profit. I plugged the address into Waze. It led to Blackwood Estates, one of those ultra-wealthy gated communities on the north side of the city, the kind of place where the driveways are heated and the security cameras probably have better resolution than my eyes. The drive was smooth. The guard at the gatehouse waved me through after checking my ID, which gave me a false sense of security. How dangerous can it be, I thought. There's a guard. I pulled up to the address. It was a massive, modern mansion. Lots of glass, sharp angles, and minimalistic landscaping. The house was entirely dark, not a single light on inside or out. I grabbed the water bottle and checked the delivery notes. That's when things got weird. Note from customer. Do not go to the front door. Do not ring the bell. My wife is sleeping. Walk around the left side of the house to the backyard. There's a detached garage near the tree line. Bring it there. Extra cash waiting if you're quiet. I hesitated. Walking into a stranger's backyard in the middle of the night is rule number 1 of how to get shot. But I looked at the app again. $55, plus the promise of extra cash. I got out of the car. The silence in the neighborhood was heavy. No crickets, no traffic noise, just the sound of my sneakers on the pavement. I walked down the left side of the house, using my phone's flashlight to navigate. The manicured lawn ended abruptly, transitioning into wilder, unkempt grass as I reached the backyard. The estate was huge. Way in the back, bordering a dense patch of woods, sat the structure mentioned in the notes. It wasn't a normal garage. It looked like a concrete blockhouse. It was small, maybe big enough for 1 car, but it had no windows. The paint was peeling, and it looked distinctively older and uglier than the sleek mansion up front. It looked like something that didn't belong there. As I got closer, I noticed the door. It wasn't a standard aluminum garage door. It was a heavy steel service door, painted a dull gray. Above it, a single yellow bulb flickered, buzzing audibly in the quiet night. I stopped about 10 feet away. The vibe was all wrong. The air felt colder back here. My instincts were screaming at me to turn around, throw the water on the grass, and run. But I needed the money. I took a deep breath, walked up to the steel door, and knocked 3 times.
The sound of my knuckles hitting the steel was dull and heavy. It didn't sound like a hollow door. It sounded like I was knocking on a vault. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. I was just about to leave the water on the ground and bolt when I heard the locks disengage. Not 1 lock, but 3 distinct clack-clack-clack sounds of heavy deadbolts sliding back. The door swung open slowly. Standing there was a man. He looked aggressively normal. He was maybe 40 years old, wearing a clean polo shirt and khakis. He looked like a dad you'd see at a PTA meeting, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and focused intensely on me. "The water," he said. His voice was soft, smooth. "You brought it." "Yeah," I said, holding out the bottle. I stayed planted on the concrete step, ready to hand it over and leave. "Here you go." He didn't reach for it. He didn't even look at the bottle. He just kept staring at my face. "My hands are a bit dirty," he said, holding them up. "They looked clean to me. Could you just set it on the table inside? Just right there." He stepped aside, gesturing into the garage. I looked past him. The interior was pitch black. The yellow porch light didn't penetrate far, but it illuminated enough to show me that this wasn't a garage. There were no tools, no lawnmower, no car. The walls were lined with egg crate foam, soundproofing.
thick black acoustic foam covering every inch of the walls and ceiling. In the center of the room, barely visible in the gloom, was a metal table. On the table, there was zip ties and a roll of duct tape. Nothing else. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. "I can't come inside," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "Company policy, I have to leave it at the door." The man's smile faltered. His body language shifted. He leaned forward slightly, blocking more of the exit path than he had a second ago. "It's just 5 feet, he insisted. His tone wasn't soft anymore, it was tight. "I have a $100 bill on that table for you. Just step in and grab it." "No thanks," I said. I took a step back. "Come inside," he commanded. It wasn't a request. I looked at the door again. I realized why it looked so heavy. It was reinforced steel, swinging inward. If I stepped past the threshold, all he had to do was push me, slam that door, and those 3 deadbolts would slide shut. Nobody would hear me scream in a soundproof concrete box at the edge of the woods. Panic took over. I didn't say another word. I threw the water bottle at his chest hard and turned around. "Hey!" he shouted. I didn't look back. I sprinted. I ran through the tall grass, my lungs burning, slipping on the wet dew. I heard heavy footsteps behind me for a few seconds, slapping against the pavement, but I was running on pure adrenaline. I rounded the corner of the mansion, fumbling for my keys. I practically dove into my car, locked the doors, and jammed the key into the ignition. As I peeled away from the curb, tires screeching, I looked in the rearview mirror. The man was standing at the edge of the driveway, under a street lamp. He wasn't chasing me anymore. He was just watching, his hands in his pockets, perfectly still. I drove until I was 3 towns over. I pulled into a brightly lit gas station and sat there shaking, trying to process what had just happened. I reported the incident to the app support, telling them I felt unsafe, but they gave me the usual automated, "We will investigate" response. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I had escaped. I went home, double-locked my apartment door, and tried to sleep. Around 3:30 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I figured it was the app support or maybe a late notification. I picked it up. It was a text message from an unknown number. "You run fast, Mark. Shame about the tip. Next time, come inside." I froze. My blood turned to ice. Delivery apps use a proxy system. Drivers and customers never see each other's real phone numbers. Everything is routed through a temporary relay number. And my name on the app is just M. This man knew my full first name, and he had my personal cell phone number. I blocked the number immediately and called the police, but there wasn't much they could do with a burner phone text and no physical crime committed. I moved apartments 2 months later. I never did another delivery. But sometimes, when I get a text from a number I don't recognize, my hands start to shake, and I remember that soundproof room and the zip ties waiting on the metal table. He knows who I am, and he knows I'm the one that got away. It was my 3rd week delivering for UberEats, and I was starting to get comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. I had a system. Check the restaurant, check the mileage, blast my playlist, and drop off the food. It was easy money for a college student, and I enjoyed the solitude of driving around at night. Around 10:45 p.m. on a Thursday, I picked up a large order of Thai food. Pad Thai, spring rolls, the works. The delivery address was in a suburb called Oak Creek, a quiet, upper-middle-class neighborhood about 15 minutes away. I was halfway there when my phone rang. It wasn't through the app. It was a direct call. The caller ID just said, "Unknown." Usually I ignore these, but since I was on a delivery, I thought it might be the customer. I answered via Bluetooth. "Hello?" "Hi," a male voice crackled over the speakers. It sounded digital, slightly distorted, like the reception was bad. "Is this the driver?" "Yes, this is Sarah. I'm about 10 minutes away with your order." "Listen," the voice said, cutting me off. "The app is messing up again. It put the pin on the wrong street. I'm actually 1 block over on Elm Street, number 404. It's the big white house on the corner, the one with the for sale sign in the yard." "Oh, okay," I said, glancing at my GPS. 404 Elm Street. "Yes, please hurry, I'm starving." The line went dead. It seemed annoying, but plausible. GPS glitches happen all the time. I turned off the main road and navigated toward Elm Street.
The neighborhood was silent. Most houses had their porch lights off and the street lamps were few and far between. I found the house easily enough. It was exactly as described. A large, two-story colonial-style home on a corner lot. A wooden Century 21 for sale sign was planted in the lawn, swaying slightly in the night breeze. But something felt off immediately. The house was completely dark. No interior lights, no porch light. It looked like a black void against the dark blue sky. The driveway was empty. I parked my car and grabbed the heavy paper bag of food. I walked up the driveway, my footsteps echoing loudly. I hesitated at the bottom of the porch steps. "Hello?" I called out. Nothing. I walked up to the front door and reached for the doorbell, but before I could press it, I noticed the door wasn't latched. It was open a crack, revealing sliver of darkness inside. I knocked on the wood frame. "UberEats?" From deep inside the house, a voice shouted back. It sounded distant, coming from the back rooms. "Just bring it to the kitchen, through the hall." I froze. I wasn't supposed to enter houses. It was against safety guidelines. But the guy sounded impatient and I wanted my tip. I pushed the door open. "Sir, I can't really come inside," I shouted into the gloom. "Please," the voice called again, closer this time, but still hidden. "My hands are full. Just set it on the counter. There's an extra $20 for you there." Money talks. I stepped over the threshold. The air inside was stale, smelling of dust and old carpet. My eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering in from the street lamp outside. The house was clearly staged for selling, but it felt abandoned. The furniture in the living room was covered in white dust sheets, looking like ghosts in the darkness. There were no personal items, no photos, no shoes by the door. And then I heard it. From the kitchen, down the long hallway, came the sound of water running. A faucet turned on full blast. Who runs the water like that before getting their food? I thought. I took a few more steps down the hallway, clutching the bag tight. The floorboards creaked under my sneakers. The sound of the rushing water was getting louder, drowning out the silence of the neighborhood. I reached the kitchen doorway. It was empty. The sink was indeed running, water splashing loudly into the stainless steel basin. But there was no one there. The counters were bare. There was no $20 bill waiting. "Hello?" I whispered, my heart starting to pound. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled my phone out, expecting another call from the distorted voice. It wasn't a call. It was a notification from the UberEats app. A message from the real customer, the account that had placed the order. "Hey, I'm watching your icon on the map. You drove past my street. You're sitting in a vacant house 2 blocks away. Is everything okay?" The blood drained from my face so fast I felt dizzy. If David was messaging me through the app, then who had called me? Who had told me to come here? I looked at the sink. The water was still pouring out, splashing violently. Someone had turned that on recently. I spun around to run back to the front door. Click. The sound was unmistakable. It was the loud, heavy clack of a deadbolt sliding into place. It came from the front door. I hadn't closed it. I had left it ajar. Someone had been behind the door or hidden in the front room, waiting for me to walk deep enough into the house to trap me. "No!" I gasped. I dropped the food. The bag split open, spilling pad thai all over the dusty floor. I didn't care. I didn't run toward the front door. Whoever locked it was standing right there. I turned and sprinted into the living room, desperate to find another way out. The room was full of those sheet-covered furniture pieces. In the dark, they looked like people crouching, waiting to grab me. I scrambled toward the large bay window at the front of the house. I fumbled with the latch. It was painted shut, stuck. Come on," I screamed, tears stinging my eyes. I heard heavy footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate steps on the hardwood floor. Thud, thud, thud. They were coming from the front door, moving toward the living room. I abandoned the window and ran to the side of the room, to a sliding glass door that likely led to a patio. There was a wooden dowel jammed in the track to prevent it from opening. I dropped to my knees, my fingernails scraping against the metal track as I clawed the wooden stick loose. The footsteps were at the entryway of the living room now. I could hear breathing, heavy, ragged breathing. I yanked the dowel free and threw my weight against the glass door. It slid open with a screech of metal on metal. I tumbled out onto a concrete patio, scraping my knees raw. I didn't look back. I scrambled to my feet and ran across the backyard. I vaulted over a low chain-link fence, ripping my jeans, and landed in the neighbor's yard. I kept running until I reached the street, putting 2 houses between me and the for-sale property. Only then did I stop, hiding behind a parked van, gasping for air. I peered back toward the house. My car was still in the driveway, engine off. Across the street, parked in the shadows of a large oak tree, was a black sedan with tinted windows. As I watched, the sedan's headlights flickered on. Inside the vacant house, I saw a silhouette move past the front window. It paused, looking out at the street, looking for me. Then the front door opened, and a figure in a dark hoodie walked out, calm as anything. He didn't look frantic. He walked slowly down the driveway, got into the black sedan across the street, and drove away without speeding. I called the police from behind that van, shaking so hard I could barely speak. When the officers arrived, they found the back door open and the Thai food spilled in the hall. The water in the kitchen was still running. The detective explained to me later what had likely happened. It's a technique called intercepting. Someone had hacked my phone's location data earlier that night, maybe when I was on open Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, or maybe through a compromised app. They could see exactly where I was and who I was delivering to. They spoofed the call, pretending to be the customer, to divert me to a kill box, a location they controlled, isolated and prepared. The scariest part wasn't the lock or the dark house. It was the investigation of my phone. The police found that the hacker hadn't just been tracking my location for that one delivery. The malware had been on my phone for 3 days. He'd been watching me, listening to my calls, and waiting for the perfect moment when I would be alone at night near a house he had already broken into. I don't deliver food anymore. I don't even like answering the phone. Every time I hear a deadbolt click, I'm back in that dusty hallway, listening to the water run.